Hello, and welcome to Blades and Banners. It is our second edition of the Ship's Log, our Friday Q&A show, and we are happily joined by Mia today. Hey, Mia, and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you and to all the viewers as well.
Yes. Well, we got a lot of questions for and about Sohaina, so we're just going to dive straight into those because later on tonight we're going to actually play, so that'll be, we'll just get going.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so these are all variously from our viewers Josh and Emily. First question is there any particular actor you would like to play your character in a live adaptation or voice them in an animated one? I guess depending on whether Sohaina is rendered using CGI or elaborate practical effects.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have an actor you would cast to do Sohaina?
I do not. I'm trying to my first thoughts went to men until I remembered that Sohaina is a woman. I was like, well, I think Ron Perlman could play a really great giant 7-foot gnoll.
Ron Perlman would voice a really good gnoll.
Yes. But other than that, I'm trying to think of I actually think it would be absolutely incredible. Now that I'm thinking about this, Amy Poehler as Sohaina would be unbelievable because she has that kind of, kind of a little, I don't know what the correct word is. Frantic is the word that I'm thinking of, but it's not the right word. But then I'm just going to, in my fantasy world, I'm going to say that were this person cast, I would get to meet this person. And so I am saying,
there you go,
Emma Thompson. I would do terrible things to be friends with Emma Thompson. So.
She's got a range. She's voiced a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plus, she's just a delight.
And that's also true. Emma Thompson is very, very delightful.
Yay.
So then we have some questions about imagining where Sohaina would be in the Kyber Shards storm timeline.
Right.
If your character had been in Stormreach during the events of Kyber Shards, which of the featured NPCs do you think your character would have gotten along best with?
Yeah. The featured NPCs. Okay. I got this question. I don't know if I said this already. I looked at these questions, didn't get a lot of time to think about them because primarily what I was thinking of was what would Sohaina have been doing? And I think that gets brought up later, but I bet she would dig Thora.
Oh yeah. I can see that, especially just with the thing with Durga, I can see the same kind of vibe going on.
Yes, absolutely. And Thora is chill. Yeah, I think Thora would make her feel comfortable.
Cool.
All right, let's go with that.
Nice.
Specifically because of the Lesh Durga, looking for that sort of authority figure to say, hey, I like you. I accept you. Come here. I'm going to tuck you under my wing.
Thora might be less withholding than Lesh Durga.
Yes. Well, there is time. But my girl hasn't brought out her Noli wiles yet. So.
There you go. She just wants a boss lady.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Don't we all?
Here's an interesting one. What do you think Sohaina was? Now, we haven't really addressed Sohaina's age,
Yeah.
but what do you think Sohaina was doing likely during the last war? So at this point in the timeline, we're almost 10 years since hostilities ceased,
Yep.
or at least since active fighting ceased.
Yep.
And Sohaina, and I don't know exactly, we've established how exactly in fiction how old Sohaina is,
Right.
but certainly more than 10. So
Right.
what do you think Sohaina was up to during the war?
So I see Sohaina, I mean, is giving some away,
Yeah, that's okay.
is giving some of her backstory away, like, in this, okay? Or I
It's okay with me.
okay, great. Um, so I have her Sohaina at around 23. That is how I imagine her, and she has been on the island for about 2 years.
Mhm.
And prior to that, during the war, my thought is she would have been with her tribe,
Mhm.
and she grew up on the Talenta Plains. She was out mercenarying
Mhm.
with them. So my thought is her feeling about the war would be on the outside. I think her exposure to the war is just what was being expected, what kind of jobs her tribe would have been going out on. And I imagine at 13 they would have already had her on the ship with them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Um so I think her worldview would be a lot more narrow. My guess, I don't see that the Knolls were very involved in the war. Is that
Mostly as mercenaries from various
yeah.
places.
Yep.
Knolls in Droam and the Knolls in the Talento Plains, like probably again selling themselves as war bands to go out
Yep.
and fight for whoever was willing to pay.
Yep.
And a good way to get plunder.
Yeah. And I think especially as a 13-year-old, her focus would be more much more narrow, much more
Hmm.
about who she is, in the world and in the tribe, and trying to figure out who the heck she is and where she fits in.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. So speaking of that sort of narrowish worldview,
Yeah.
uh, how does Sohaina feel about the dragon marked houses or dragon marks in general, to the degree that she has a strong opinion about them?
Yeah, and I don't think she does. I think that
Yeah.
that is such a removed concept
Hmm.
um for her, that I don't know, and especially growing up in a mercenary environment where my idea is that they they go where the money goes. So
Yeah.
it's not about allegiances other than that, or at all.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Returning to Kybershard's related questions,
Yeah.
how well do you think Sohaina would get along with Nardali?
I love this question because I think she would recognize, I think Nardali would be familiar to her,
Hmm.
but there's um a ruthless um interest in violence that Nardali would have, or Nardali would not shy away from violence.
Certainly.
Right? And and I think it would be tough with Sohaina because she would gravitate to Nardali, but the she'd be concerned of getting swept up in that bloodlust that
Yeah.
Nardali absolutely embraces.
Yeah. Hard question.
I know.
Would Sohaina like Dane or Malcolm more?
God, and I have to remove Mia from this entirely because I think I think she probably would have had more in common and more more likely to have ever interacted with Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Dane is very driven by ideals, and Malcolm is more of, a ship for hire. If
Yeah.
I have that
Yeah.
correctly.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
think, more familiar with Malcolm, and Malcolm would make more sense to her,
Yeah.
I think. But I just have to do it like that. Like, I just have to think of it
Mm-hmm.
logistically. I
Right.
think, I don't know about Sohaina and her, penchant for romantic thoughts. I'm not sure where we are with that, but they're certainly not as evolved as Mia's, Japanese thoughts. So, especially if she was 13 at the time. So yeah.
Right. This is an interesting one. I don't know where this is going to go, but
I know.
in the age of Kulsir, in our alternate future where Kulsir rules,
Yes.
would Sohaina have been likely to swear fealty to Arandis Vol when she took over the Lazar Principalities in that timeline, or would she have fought against that takeover? And this is, I think, a reference to the way I answered this question for Lesh Durga.
Yeah.
What if that involved a break with Lesh Durga?
Well, so this would have been 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Sohaina has only really gotten to know Lesh Durga in the past 2 years or so that she's been on the island. That is my thought.
Oh, well, actually, the Age of Kulsir would still, I think, technically be in the future at this point.
Oh shoot!
In
So
the
it would have
alternate
been
timeline, because it'd be like, yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh, okay. So where does her path lead her in another 10 years? Right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So knowing what I know of Sohaina, whatever Lesh Durga, choosing to side against Lesh Durga, from what I know of Sohaina right now, because I think the Age of Kulsir would have taken place 10 years from now.
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go whatever Lesh Durga wants.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think just not only do Mia know a lot about not know a lot about the world, I also think Sohaina would be on the outskirts of all of these all of the world events. That's my thought.
Yeah, the politics is not
correct.
Is not on her radar so much. It's
correct.
It's the immediate relationships. That makes sense. What made you decide to have Aggie? She's so cute, by the way.
Yeah. I agree. That was a matter of, oh my God, Philip, can I have a pet? That, that's where that thought started from. And then Philip was saying, sure. And here are some of your options. Like, what are we thinking? You can have this, that, and the other. And then the idea of a little dinosaur came up, because dinosaurs on the Talenta Plains. Is that what yeah. And I was like, oh, that's it. It was just a very impulsive, I would die to have a tiny dinosaur pet. So if anyone has one, we got a lot of land here. We got like 45 acres. If you want to, if you need someone to look after your baby dinosaur.
We'll clone one eventually.
Yes. And we'll know it will go very, very well.
There's so much narrative documentation of how well it's going to go.
Correct. Exactly. I'm not calling her Blue, though. I'm out at that point.
What yes. I'm curious, what made you decide on an ankylosaur, which was very unexpected to me. I it's delightful, but when you're talking about dinosaurs, my thought went to, we're on a ship, maybe a dinosaur that flies, maybe a dinosaur that swims. Maybe. My immediate thought was not an ankylosaur, which I would particularly imagine as a dinosaur that sinks.
Right. It was again a matter of me looking through all the dinosaurs and then just trying to imagine a little mini plate of skulls with a bashy tail, and it was just the cuteness factor just overwhelmed me. So that is why. And they're not cute, I mean, they were terrifying and dangerous, but this one is.
Sure, yeah. You shrink anything down to a certain size, right? And it gets a certain level of cute, even if it's got, even a really terrifying thing shrunk down to a small size. Yes. There gets to be a certain, cuteness, because you get the little sort of kitten factor where it's like, I'm terrifying.
Yes. Can you imagine a tiny little T-Rex with like tiny little stubby arms? Ugh, too cute. But so yes, that was Ankylosaur.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are Sohaina's preferred artistic forms?
Yeah.
As a bard, song, dance, acting, underwater basket weaving, etc.
Yep. I see triple threat with Sohaina. Song, singer, dancer, actor. That is the well-rounded entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I see. Not necessarily. She does have an instrument. We decided she has a little. This is what I did when I was trying to figure it out. The little African finger keyboard.
Is it a marimba? Is that what it's called? Is it a marimba?
It isn't. It's
not.
It's a kalimba. Oh my goodness sake. All right, hold on. Let me just type it in. So, but the point is, kalimba instrument. Yes. Kalimba. It's a kalimba.
Yeah,
yep. It is. I don't see her as being the musician type that is able to play a bunch of things. I think the kalimba is her little happy place. And that's it. But primarily, actor, dancer, singer type.
That's outstanding.
Yay.
Since back in episode 4, when I asked everybody excited about on the crew, Sohaina got the worried about question.
Yeah.
Who is Sohaina most excited about being on the crew?
Do you know, I think it's the same person. When I was thinking about this, I was like, Ellie Y is gonna like get me, dragged to the bottom of the ocean because she's very excited about these things that I think are terrifying. Mm-hmm. And Finian, he's grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's a little too excitable. I think Sohaina's a little too excitable to be excited about being a grump. Mia, by the way, loves grumps. These are my these are the men that I collect in my life are grumps. But I think Oren would be both frightening and exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's gregarious. And from what I can see, he, at least at this point, he's got a little bit of the take charge. Now, I think take charge is the wrong word, but he's not afraid to sort of take the lead in something. And I think Sohaina would appreciate that.
Yeah. Speaking of Oren, has Sohaina's opinion about the fate of the hammock ghost changed in the intervening week or so, and her opinion of Oren relatedly?
I think no to both. I think no. I don't think anything would have changed. And it's not like she's got a negative opinion of Oren, but I think it's all very fresh, and I don't think anything would have changed with respect to that yet, because she's disinclined toward violence, which yes, I am aware that this is not a very Gnoll thing, but I'm doing a whole thing with it.
Excellent.
It's also not a Mia thing. I'm very, very
That's
prone
true.
toward violence.
Yeah, there's a question coming up that
Oh, good, yeah.
that is about that, because I'm interested in that as well. So this next question, I'm interested. Does Sohaina bring Aggie to sea with her?
She has not. Oh, you know what? This was our first official, like actual official trip, wasn't it?
Yeah, the trip to Vale was y'all's first voyage.
So, yes, she does bring Aggie with her. She left Aggie at home for the prep stuff. But Aggie absolutely has a place on the ship with her. When she is unable to take Aggie with her, there is another NPC we have not met yet who Sohaina would entrust to look in on her. But I think Aggie would stay at home. Aggie is self-sufficient. You know, I'd leave out all of the food and she'd be timed. Her food would be on a timer, etc.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But she bashes too much for me. Yeah. I would never want anyone to have to do home repairs after watching Aggie. So she would be checked on in the home.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. One of our established NPCs who hasn't shown up yet is Serafina, a Kalashtar veterinarian, essentially an animal handler. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
Plus, wait, I'm so sorry. Can I just add this? I didn't clarify enough what Sohaina's flat looked like. It is modest, but it's very covered in scarves and draperies, and it's very cozy in that way. And Aggie loves snuggling up and snuggling into the pillows and the scarves and things like that. So she's quite happy to be around all the softness.
Aggie sounds like she has the personality of my my older dog.
Really?
Strider. Yes, Strider. I think mostly through Rose's intervention, has learned that blankets are for sleeping not merely on but also under.
Oh, I can't stand it.
And so he will nest himself down into a pile of blankets if given the opportunity.
I don't know why we haven't seen pictures of that yet, but that's all right. That's for another time.
The next question is, did Oren's point about Terran potentially being a resource when it comes to Leshdurga instead of an obstacle or opponent hit home with Sohaina? And what's Sohaina's biggest concern about Terran besides his proximity to Leshdurga?
The Terran thing's going to really, really be work for me because he is awesome. Mia fell in love with him the moment Terran opened his mouth. He's just adorable. Like, he's just like eager and, I like him so much. Sohaina noted the advice. It was something she had not thought about before, and she noted it, but there's no way she's there yet. It'll be hanging out in the back of her brain, and she will reluctantly take a look at it. But we're nowhere near that point. And so, wait, what was it? Biggest concern about Terran.
Yeah.
That is it. Truly, that's it. She has no reason to, I think in this case, it's simply jealousy, not envy of Terran, right? Because she's jealously guarding her relationship with Leshdurga and therefore doesn't want Terran to be closer to Leshdurga than she is.
Terran is a hilarious situation because I put together this list of NPCs and asked all the players to pick a positive and a negative relationship. And I try, when I do that, and I've done this in a few campaigns now, and I try, and I'm pretty good, I think, about keeping my description of the character neutral enough to allow for it to swing either way. But some of the NPCs are, definitely that I list are definitely easier to be enemies with just off the bat. And when I wrote the description of Terran as the page, as like the young man who's Leshturga's page, it didn't occur to me once anybody's gonna choose Terran as an enemy. I was like, someone's gonna be friends with Terran, like that's gonna be kind of a cute little relationship. And both of the players who picked Terran picked negative relationships, and it's great. Like,
Oh my God.
like I love it, like because the motivation behind them makes so much sense. Like it's not like both of them were obviously like it was Mia and Colin, and both of them picked like expressed it as not as I have a negative relationship with Terran because he's a bad guy. It was very obviously I have a negative relationship with Terran because I won his job, or I have a negative relationship with Terran because he's too interested in what I do. And it's annoying to me. Like it was so funny, and it immediately informed who Terran was, and to some degree some of his backstory, because just it immediately just lent itself to the goofball comedy that we enjoy here. So I'm very much enjoying that weird dynamic between Sohaina and Terran and Finian.
And I loved discovering real time. I went, oh my God, Finian's made the same choice, but for a different way. This is gonna be fun.
It absolutely is.
Yes.
Okay, so this I think is sort of the core question here. Why a gnoll in particular? And then we've kind of answered this part. Are there any connections to the gnolls of the Zanir Pact in Droam? Which is no, you're from the Talenta Plains.
Right.
And what brought Sohaina to the Lazar Principalities? And does she have feelings about the more prominent culture of gnolls in Eberron?
Yes. So a gnoll in particular was when Philip was offering up potential campaign ideas. There was one that involved is this okay to share?
Yeah.
One that would have involved monstrosities, and I got very, very excited about that. I also don't know anything. I am so new to the culture of ttrpgs and like Eberron in particular. I don't know enough about what it would be like to play a monstrosity or to interact with, so, but the idea sounded really neat to me. And I have this thing. So we did not choose that, but I still was kind of stuck on the idea of playing, gnolls aren't monstrosities, but they are creatures, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, gnolls are humanoids, but in most settings of D&D, it would be weird for a player character to be playing one.
Right.
And they would be perceived by most people who encounter them as monsters.
Right.
Even if they are humanoids with language and culture and all of the things. So yeah, no, you're right on. Gnolls are absolutely gnolls are things that show up in the monster manual, not the player's handbook in most cases.
Right. Okay. And Philip was very gracious, and he said, the reason gnoll in particular is because I have this thing with hyenas. I often laugh like a hyena, and I have this like hyenas and jackals. I'm not entirely sure how close or how dissimilar the two species are. But I always felt growing up that myself and my siblings, when it was feeding time, that's a look. Okay, so there it is. We would all just surround the food like jackals, just scavenging for whatever we could. And so just the idea of playing a hyena type creature, it seemed so interesting to me. It just really, it excited me to think about playing. So that is what that is. And she does have feelings about Gnoll culture in general. And this kind of goes to her motivation as a character. So again, we're okay sharing this.
Yeah.
This is all good. Okay. Philip's like, shut up, Mia. No, she is an outcast in that she's brought up in this culture of bloodlust, but she never really felt it. You know, we see these stories. So she's the quiet one. She will absolutely, you know, she has it within her to get swept up in the bloodlust, but she fights against that. So it's just, I thought of her particular tribe being more about being mercenaries mercenaries who did not shy away from their bloodlust, rather than actively going out and being like mean and violent. I envisioned her tribe to be more absolutely unafraid to be violent, and they would get swept up in it and enjoy it. And that doesn't work for Sohaina. And she tries to stifle that part of herself. So I would say that her overall feeling about Gnoll culture is, I imagine there's some embarrassment. She has a little bit of shame about being a Gnoll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the things that I thought you would play, Gnoll made a lot of sense. And then when you said Gnoll Bard, I was like, I see Bard and I see Gnoll. This combination is very interesting. And then as I started to discover Sohaina's, you know, a violence averse, and I was, this is the last thing I would expect Mia to be playing. Me
too.
Artistic, sure, that makes sense. You know, big, fierce-looking creature, sure, makes sense. But non-violent. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I really appreciate the fact that you had space for me to say this is what I'd like, and you didn't squelch me, you know? Yeah. And I'm of course always going to be checking in to make sure that I am not pushing things too far, and being too over the top one way or the other.
Yeah. No, and I, you know, what I liked about the way that you approached this is, you know, you said Gnoll, and I was like, okay, well, and then I kind of pulled together a bunch of all the things I could find about Gnolls in Eberron and what they're like, and some of the cultures of Gnolls. And you didn't come back and say, okay, yeah, that's great, but the Gnolls I'm from are an artistic, peace-loving band of Gnolls who just aren't, you know, at all like the Gnolls and ignore all of the lore to do with Gnolls.
Right.
Which, I mean, you know, you can do, but it's not what I would call the best way to be an outlier.
Right.
Instead, you're like, my character has all that inside her, but she doesn't really like that aspect of herself. She doesn't want to be like that. She's the elf who wants to be a dentist.
Right. Oh my God. Yes.
She's
Herbie.
She's Buddy. Is it Herbie? I'm sorry, what
Herbie
his name is.
in the original.
Yeah. But no, Buddy's from Elf. That's the little feral one. Yeah. Yeah. She's Herbie the elf. And that's delightful. Like that's a very D&D character idea. Yay. Is I didn't want to be what my parents were before, but instead of I didn't want to be a farmer like my father, so I went out to seek adventures, I didn't want to be a bloodthirsty ravager like my father.
And my Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
Right. So here I am.
Yeah.
Entertaining pirates.
Trying to, like, it's the first time she the way I envisioned her, is it, how did I land on, is that coming up? Is there a question about how I got?
There is, that question was part of it, is what brought Sohaina to the Lazar Principalities?
Right. So traveling with the tribe on a job, and at one point they just said, we have had enough of this one, and they landed on 7th. They did their thing and they left without her. They just abandoned her there, and so they I imagined her spending the first year trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And then the second year going, okay, like, what do I do now? I'm no longer cloistered. I don't think is the right word, but I'm not in this box anymore. I get to actually, because when she'd be out doing these mercenary events, when she would be out on the ship and participating in all of this, she'd be more likely creating little figurines. And now she gets to embrace that. She doesn't have to stuff that part. So who is she while she's trying to figure out, like, I can operate without all these bounds around me. So I like theater. I like crafting. But I also I'm also going to carry a lot of abandonment stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Have you did you watch Our Flag Means Death?
Mm-mm.
There's a lot, like, it was on, I think, Apple TV, but it was Taika Waititi, I think directed it, and he was a co-star in it. But the main character it was based on a real pirate named Stede Bonnet, and Stede Bonnet became a pirate because he was a bored English gentleman who liked the idea of adventure and piracy. And so he went off to sea and became the gentleman pirate. And it doesn't exactly follow the story of Stede Bonnet, but it's a guy who's not not a Pirates of the Caribbean pirate. He's a Gilbert and Sullivan pirate.
Oh my God. I've got this pulled up on IMDb. I'm going to figure out how I can watch it, because
it's quite funny. Like, it's pretty well done.
It's Taika Waititi.
And Taika Waititi is delightful. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So our last question.
Yes.
Is I don't know if this is really meant for you or Sohaina, so I'll let you interpret it how it is, but it's kind of just an invitation to speculate. What do you think is the origin of the Traveler's Gift? How do you think it got into the Gauntlet? Do you think you're likely to run into the vessel's former owners? And what rumor do you wish to spread about the ship?
To spread about this ship? Oh, I didn't see that part. I don't have, I feel like Mia doesn't have enough information to guess. And I think Sohaina is, I don't know how interested she is in where it came from. Not because she doesn't care. I just think, again, she's led such an insular life, insular existence, that I don't know that she spent time maybe thinking about these rumors and this lore, in-world lore. I do like the question, and I like to think about it, but I don't know that Sohaina has anything right now. But rumors spread about the ship. Oh, I definitely think what's coming up for me right now is just the idea that it's a very what's coming up is it's like a really talented entertainment vessel. Like you, like if you want to see a good traveling ship show or something to do with, we're not just bloodthirsty. That's not all. We are also really we put on a great performance.
Uh-huh.
That seems so silly, but that's exactly what it
No,
is.
that's super good. Like, oh man, no, I love that. Well, okay. So that is the questions we got time for today. Thank you so much to our viewers for submitting questions. You can always submit questions for the ship's log on our Discord, which you can find links to below. We will do our best to get a little more regular as the holidays pass and as the year gets into its normal rhythm.
And the episodes build up more too, right?
And as the episodes build up, yeah. But you'll find this always on Fridays and on our YouTube channel. And in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with Mia or any of our other casts, you can find links to all of their stuff down in the description, and also to the Discord, as mentioned before, and to our merch store. New episodes of Blades and Banners drop on Mondays. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.
Bye.